So I'm going to talk to you today about a secret weapon. Who likes secret weapons that make things easy and fun and lucrative? And really what we're going to talk about today is changing your relationship to marketing and sales. It's one of my intentions to have you guys over however long we might have an opportunity to play together, for you to really fall in love with this opportunity that we get to get out there and share what it is that we do. And for me, I'm on a mission to humanize the sales experience, and you'll understand why when you hear a little bit about my story. But I have a question for you. Why are you here? Like, I don't mean here in the big sense, that's a big purpose question. But I mean, why are you here in the room today? And what, yeah.
Just
relationships and connecting, yeah. When I ask this question of why you want to be in the room today, what is it going to get you at the other end if you act upon all this desire you're feeling right now? What's that going to get you? What's something that you're really, really in your heart wanting? Shout it out. Happiness, relationships, connection, freedom, help other people. Effectiveness, I like that too. What is that? Out with a message. Okay, there's one word I haven't heard yet. Yes! we get to have all those things that you were saying, but we also get to make a whole lot of money. Because Mark Victor Hansen was on our board of directors for one of the businesses that I built, and he was my book coach for the first book that we took as a bestseller. And one of his favorite sayings was, one of the best ways to help the poor is to not be one of them. So when I ask this question, what it is that you want, I find that pretty much it falls under three things. So let's read it with me as we go along. What's the first one? To make a contribution, to have what you're here to give matter for other people. What's the next one? Ooh, I like that word, just financial ease. It means there's no angsting, there's no sitting on your floor with all the bills scattered around, right, Katrina? It's that just being able to be in your zone of trusting that you've got plenty to do all the things that you want. And then the last thing is? Time freedom. Can I get an amen? I don't know. You're going to learn a little bit about me, but these three things are pretty much what I find people are really yearning for. And what I've also found in working with entrepreneurs for the past 30 years, that when you want these things, something's got to change. And what is that usually? You, right? I love this picture. Oh, the little thingies didn't work so much. But it says, how many of you are feeling called into the next evolution of you? Right? Like, you're here in this room because you know that there's another version of you that has not yet been birthed, not yet pulled out from behind the curtain, and you know that if you want that significance and time freedom and financial abundance, that you need to grow. Because you'll hear me say this, and if you ever have a chance to kind of hear more of my work, I will always beat the drum that your success is 80% how you're showing up and only 20% what you're doing. You can screw it up, you can be just okay at everything, but it's who you're being in that process is what really leads to the success. So we're going to talk a little bit about, this whole concept of being called to the next evolution of you, because I know what that feels like, because over the last 30 years, my husband and I have started and grown 7 businesses. Now, how many of you have multiple businesses? Raise your hand. Hi, proud, loud and proud. How many of you done that with your spouse? Okay, there's a support group for us, actually. No, it's funny now. So 30 years, 7 startups. And I often say, I did it with my husband, so it's kind of like we've been married 30 years, but it's like dog years. So we've actually been married 120 years because we had this business together. But he's the love of my life. And we were really partners in business before we were married. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the path that he and I have taken. And my greatest accomplishment is not the 7 businesses. My greatest accomplishment really is that we're still madly in love and solid marriage, and we're just keeping on. But we started the first business that we started that business in 1987 with $5,000 with the wedding ring budget that we had set aside. So I actually didn't get my wedding ring until like six years in. And I went to him and said, I have a dream of having a business. And we took that money and we started our first business. And needless to say, 13 years later, we had grown it to 2.5 million. We had 350 sales reps all over the country, and it was a really beautiful experience. But like anything else, the more zeros there are on the end of the number, the bigger the business gets. That first time out of the gate, no one really told me up front that I could have a business and also have a life. And so that first time I did a lot of things wrong. And so it came our 13th year in business, and I made a big decision to keep the marriage and sell the business. Can I get an amen for that? Because, and it was the best decision we ever made, and that whole process of building the business from nothing to 2.5 million gave me a framework for me to make better decisions from that point forward. So we just kept going. We just kept starting businesses. And from that point, the idea here that we really always put our personal life first before business was a big piece for us, because we never wanted to be put in that same situation. So we went on to grow 6 additional businesses. All of them were bootstrapped, so it was always self-funded. We never went out and got lots of money. And the common thread was really transformation. If you look at it, it was all around entrepreneurship, which I've been an entrepreneur from the get-go, and it was all around transformation. And then we went on to grow, and so we sold 3 of those. So 3 of them, I always say, 3 of them we sold, 3 of them we have today, and 1 we put to rest, right? But 6 out of 7, that's not bad. Not when the SBA is quoting that less than 80% of small businesses are making it past the first year. So you can imagine how many mistakes I made over that time, but I did get really good at doing certain things right. And so part of what we're doing today through our 3 businesses is really supporting people and having leverage, because you guys can work yourself into a job if you don't also keep in mind that you want to have leveraging strategies. So I'm going to talk with you today about one leveraging strategy, but pretty much all we do now is really focused around creating freedom for you by automating the delivery of your genius. So for how many of you are coaching one-on-one? Yep. How many of you know that to really raise your income, those who are coaching, that you need to work with one-to-many? Yes, one-to-many. That's the key. That's one thing that we do, and the other thing we're going to talk about today is automating the sales system and having you fall in love with that. And then just a little side note, kind of one of our games, I'm all about playfulness in business because it can get pretty intense and pretty hard. So we played every single time after that first business, how quickly can we get to the 1 million mark? Can I get a woohoo, right? That's a fun game to play. Now, sometimes it took us forever to get there. Sometimes we got there quicker. But, part of what I bring that to the presence of this group is it can be whatever the number is for you that feels good and juicy and exciting. But go for something big. Don't go for just enough. Because your vision becomes this beacon that pulls you towards it. And if it's exciting and if your heart races when you tell other people about it, you're more likely to step out of the comfort zone and do the things that you know that you have to do. So that's just a little bit about me. Today I live in Pebble Beach, California. If you have golfers in the area, I do not golf. It's one of the greatest sins. Someone even said they let you live there if you don't golf. But it's a beautiful spot, and I'm living out my legacy. And what that means is, for me, is everything I do from this point forward has to last not just decades, but centuries. And so what I'm going to share with you today is one of the things that I'm really excited and proud about is really transforming our relationship to marketing. So let's kind of dive into that. Because I love this, isn't that exactly how you feel sometimes? But the reality is being an entrepreneur, it can be challenging. Sometimes you're all alone, sometimes you're scared to death, sometimes you're clueless, sometimes you're doubtful, sometimes you're overwhelmed. It's just part of the journey. And so, what I found is that over those time period, it wasn't that I don't experience those same things, it's just that in many ways, I've just got a little bit more armor. I've got the strategies to move me out of it quicker. And so part of what I always looked at is what's the thing that's not working in my business? I got really good at being honest with myself, not putting my head in the sand. I love that slide from your presentation, Patty. But really being honest, and I got really good at creating solutions. And the solution that changed our business just a little bit ago, we're going to fast forward here to 2013. So 2013, this is business number 6. We had built a great following. I was masterminding and I had events, and all of a sudden I noticed that marketing in the entrepreneurial space had sort of changed quite a bit. I don't know about you. How many of you have been in this more than, say, 6 years, right? How many of you noticed how much more complicated it is to have a business than it was 5, 6 years ago? Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much more for us. With the advent of technology, which was supposed to make it easier, it actually made it quite a bit more complicated because there's so many more bells and whistles and so many more skills. So what I really saw is that it was becoming impersonal as well as complicated, and a lot of the things that we were doing were no longer effective. And I'm kind of a mother bear, and I've got this fairly big team, and I can handle a lot, but when I see my team stressing out, and when I see my team not converting in the sales calls and not feeling good, I got kind of frustrated, and I went out to look for the solution. Because I love, this guy always triggers. Isn't it funny that a picture can trigger people, right? Like he has such an energy about him. But the reality is that our exposure was up. Right? So we were out there more, we had the sales processes in place, I was speaking, but in essence, the engagement, my connection with my list, and my conversions were down. I didn't like that. So for me, I always, I'm a business coach, so any problem that I'm having, I know my clients are having, so I went out to look for a solution. So I kind of want to just find out where you guys are in terms of your marketing, if you could. So I want you to raise your hands high as I ask this. How many of you are speaking? So, actually already speaking. So raise your hands so I get a sense. Okay, so you're taking stages, and that also counts virtual too, if you're speaking virtual. How many of you are holding your own events? I know Paul asked that the other day. Okay, so like maybe about a quarter of you. How many of you are holding webinars? So you've got your PowerPoint and they're coming on and listening to you? Okay. And then lastly, how many of you are holding enrollment conversations? So in other words, you're getting on the phone and moving them into a coaching package of some kind. Raise them high. Okay. Oh, that's exciting. So this is not to, whatever. I want to ask that question again. How many of you are holding enrollment conversations? Look around the room. For those of you who don't have your hand up, I want you to look to the other person in the room and find them and ask them about the enrollment conversation. It's one of the greatest ways to create immediate cash in your business. So you mastering the private client enrollment conversation is one of the smartest things you can do to get money in the door. Katrina, can I get an amen from you? I know it. That's what you're great at that. That's exactly right. Okay, so I wanted a tool that would really enable me to supercharge every single one of these because my company was doing everything. And I wanted one tool to improve the results in all of it. So the reality is, in my opinion, when I look to each of these, so here's what's happening. In speaking, the audiences are smaller, right? That's what's kind of the trend that we're seeing. So harder to fill the room now because lots of events out there. Webinars, the show up rate is down. This is kind of a bummer part of my presentation, but I promise I make it better. Enrollment conversations, I don't know if those of you are having them. People not showing up. Yep, people not showing up to enrollment conversations. And then the people who do show up to the enrollment conversations, 5 minutes in, how many of you have ever had that experience where 5 minutes in you're like, oh boy, I know what's happening here. They don't have the budget and they're not ready to move, right? So now that we're all feeling depressed, I'm sorry. But here's the reality is sometimes we can put on our Pollyanna glasses and we cannot look at what's happening and that doesn't move us out. But if I can make you uncomfortable enough to know that this is what's happening and it doesn't have to happen to you, that's really what this is about. So I knew there had to be a better way. So by the way, I mentioned my husband earlier. Did I mention he's a programmer, right? Not a bad thing to have in a husband. So those who are single, it's tall, dark, and knows how to program. Forget the handsome. We want him to be able to code. So So I really looked for that better solution. So I a lot of conversations with my husband of what I wanted to do. And the thing that I wanted to do was really find a way to change the way myself and my team were marketing. And I started to play around with a couple different concepts. And two of the things, well, this is kind of the outcome that I wanted. And I'm kind of like, I go to my husband and say, here's what I wanted to do, right? So he starts to get the gray hair and worried. But what I wanted to do is I had a list of 10,000 people at the time. That's a pretty big list. And the thing that killed me is I had no idea who was at the other end of that email. I didn't know where they were in their journey. I didn't know if they were new, intermediate, or advanced. I didn't know what they needed. So I wanted to know who was on my list. I wanted my little crystal ball. And the other thing I wanted a way to create a meaningful connection. Connection is one of my top five values as an individual. And you're probably like me. If you ask me to do something that's out of alignment with my values, I'll do it for a little bit, but I won't do it very well, and I won't do it very long. So I knew that if I was going to transform the way our business was marketing, I personally needed to feel as though I was truly connecting with my audience and I was delivering value that was relevant to where they were on their path. How many of you think that would be a pretty cool thing to do for your clients? Yeah. So I started playing around with quizzes. Now, there's been a bit of a buzz around quizzes and surveys in the last 2 years. Well, I was doing this thing about 4 years ago, and what I found is that this is one of the most powerful tools for you really developing a meaningful connection, and thank God for the advent of technology because we can do it in a really efficient and inexpensive way now. Has anyone heard of the phrase segmenting the list? I think, Patty, you mentioned it in your presentation. So for those of you who don't know that, basically what that is being able to profile the people on your list and put them in different buckets. So that when you're communicating to them based on what their needs are, not on what you think they need. And it's really sort of changing the way we're marketing. And I wanted a really stealth, easy, fun way to do that. So the other thing I wanted was it to be really cheap. I wanted to be able to find an inexpensive way to do this. So I played with surveys and quizzes, and my list is my guinea pigs, and we try all sorts of things, and we started to see some incredible results, really, with just us asking, where are you? Tell me more about yourself. But the reality is there's not a whole lot out there in the realm of assessment. So we really set out to say, how could we build a tool that was better than anything else on the market that would allow us to do something that you're going to start to see here. So this, I love showing this, especially for those of you who are kind of new to sales. This is really all sales is. It's a 3-step process. It's this simple. First, we attract. Then we engage them. So attract is when we attract that lead, what are they doing? They're giving us their email. They're opting in. So we're doing something to capture their attention. They say, I think I might like that. They give us their email, and they're in our tribe or on our list. That's the attract process. The engage process is a little bit more, that's where we're kind of, some cases, sharing more about what it is that we're doing. A lot of you have free material or email sequences where people are learning more about what you're doing. That's the second step. We'll go a little bit more detail. And then there's enroll. Well, we found that the assessment increases that connection and effectiveness at every single step in this process. Now, before I go forward, I'm going to talk about each of these really quickly, but I want to ask you, what are you telling yourself right now in this moment, right? What's the inner dialogue? Is the inner dialogue, this is interesting, like this is new to me, it's something outside, what's in this for me? Or are you saying, I don't know, it sounds like this is something beyond me? And the reason I check in is that we've been able to use assessments for people before they even have a website, before they've just are figuring out who it is that they're here to serve, and use an assessment to be more effective in business. So just check in, because I want you to open up to this, because we've used this tool with just about at every level. So at the attract stage, what you'd have when you have an assessment, so if you can imagine this, the assessment really is a creative call to action. So instead of, right now I call it guru-centered marketing. Click here and get my PDF, click here and get on my webinar, click here and do this. It's all about the guru. But in this kind of a call to action, the invitation is click here and learn about you. Right? Relationship coach. Click here to learn about why your relationship's off. Click here and find out why you can't lose the last 10 pounds. Click here and find out why you haven't been meeting your revenue goal. So you're giving them the gift of understanding. The gift of awareness is one of the it's Tony Robbins' first mandate of success, is know where you are. That's what the assessment does. It also is then keeping the focus on them and not you, and that's Stephen Covey's first principle is seek first to understand and then to be understood. So we're following these principles that we know already work. Establishing yourself as an authority. There's something called assumed genius. I made up that groovy name. And what that means is that if a person is taking an assessment that you've built that represents your work, they're going to automatically assume that if you're measuring it, you know how to fix it. So in a little bit, I'll show you one of my assessments. You can kind of see how we do it. But it's phenomenal because all of a sudden, you don't have to pump yourself up. You don't have to, the peacock feathers up. There's an automatic, subtle distinction that, wow, this person knows this area. They can obviously help me. Subliminal suggestion that how you can help. And then lastly, for those of you who have databases, how many, like a CRM, or it could be Aweber, Infusionsoft on the other end of it. Once they take the assessment, you can push this data into your CRM system, your emailing system, and be able then to communicate and give them relevant value, which leads us to the next piece, which is really the engage process. And this, for me, was what made it really juicy and fun. Because with this information, you can kind of have a dialogue with your list. So instead of them being invisible, and we're really honoring that deep desire we all have is to be seen, heard, and valued. Well, now we can do that with our list. So we build the know, like, and trust factor in the engage with acknowledging where they are. So when you take an assessment, and if you get, in my world, if you score in the low end, I'm like, hey, you're a newbie. All right, way to go. We all start somewhere. It's okay that you scored low. But if you're a rock star and you score in the top third, you get an email that says, wow, I'm impressed. You're a rock star, right? And all of a sudden, when it used to be that they were invisible, now they're seen. We also can create the perfect next step. I've got a little bit of a pet peeve in the industry, which is our one-size-fits-all offer in our industry. You're on my list, so therefore I'm going to offer this, and I'm going to make you really, really, really want it, even if it's not right for you. So in our world, what we do is we separate beginning, intermediate, and advanced, and we give them appropriate next steps based on where they are. And it reduces that, I suck message that oftentimes is running for people on our list, or that doubt of should I invest or not. And can you imagine the trust that we're building by only putting offers in front of people for something that we know they really need? And then investing time in the highly committed. We'll talk a little bit about this in a little bit. I'm not going to go there, but that's the juicy part for all of you. And then really highlighting where they need support. So moving into the next section, paint a picture of what's possible. I'm going to go to the next one just to make sure we get it all in. This is what I wanted to give you. Patty, you can't see it on this side, but you have an assessment yourself, so you know what this looks like. So this is an actual snapshot of the results that come back. So these arrive in my inbox every day. It's pretty cool. And if you can see over here, these are the scores. So this is business basics. This person scored a 32 out of 40. I already know they're intermediate. They're not a beginner. So I already have a sense of where they are in their process. In this second section on lead generation, look at their score, 10 out of 40. I automatically know what it is that they need. Now, I'm a business coach, but transfer this over into any realm of self-development. For health and wellness, this might be exercise. It might be for a relationship. We might have one on communication, one on intimacy. What you're doing is in these sessions, I'm going to geek out because this is where I start to get excited about it, but you're basically taking the realms of transformation. What are the areas of your client's life that you create transformation? And we design assessments for that process. So that's what it looks like. And I don't know about you, but this enables me then to have that crystal ball that I always wanted. Then the next piece we're going to talk about is one of the biggest challenges in our industry is that we're spending our time with people who really aren't ready to move forward. So I have to tell you, we have our precious time. And we're getting on calls with people who really have no interest in going forward and investing. So check this out. This is something called a commitment score. It's at the end of every single one of our assessments. And what this is really designed to do is to have that individual check in with themselves of really where are they in this process. So when they're filling this out in the assessment, the top is measuring what we call aptitude. Where are they on their journey is the top part of the assessment. This last part is the commitment score, and I'll read them to you. The first one is, I'm ready to discover exactly what's been holding me back from having whatever that is. a better relationship, more money in my business, greater sex life, whatever that might be. We've got all sorts of assessments. So that's the first one, is readiness and willingness to look and see what's holding them back. The second thing we ask is, so this is on a scale of 1 to 10, I highly value the opportunity to speak to someone about possible next steps. Like, can you imagine this, you guys? We then know. And then the last one is, I'm ready to invest. It can be anything. We're going to word it differently for different people, but I'm ready to invest in the right solution should I find it, right? Some people, like Alex Mendoza, some of you know Alex, I think he puts I have $5,000 or more to invest in the next solution, because dude doesn't want to talk to anybody that doesn't want to invest $5,000. So check this out. Did you see the score? Who would you rather talk to? 6 out of 30 or 26 out of 30? Yay! So what's really, really cool, and this was an interesting dinner conversation, because Mario, of course, is building the code with his team, and we got to this piece, and I was like, well, here's what I want it to do. And he always hates it when I start a sentence with, here's what I want it to do. I wanted it to be able to have the top part, a score, so an aptitude score on the top part, so we knew where they were, beginning, intermediate, advanced. But I wanted to pull out this bottom section and embed in the autoresponder a specific message just for my highly committed, right? And you can set it wherever you want. So we made it so you can set that score. So for those of you who are looking for those initial clients and you've not done the enrollment conversations yet, baby, set the score low. You want to get on the phone with just about anybody, right? Because you're perfecting and you're creating that sense of comfort. So you might set a commitment score of maybe 13. It doesn't really matter. You just want to get on the phone and talk, because we've got this really cool 5-step process that we teach on how to have an enrollment conversation using the assessment results. But as you get better and better, and as you start closing more clients, you can raise that commitment score. And in our world, you don't get offered a strategy session unless you have a commitment score of 25 or more. What do you think that's done to our enrollment? And how beautiful for, I have an amazing team of people who do the initial exploration session just to see where you are. How cool for me to be able to hand somebody over to them to say, do your great work, have an amazing conversation with this person. We know that they're ready. Like that in and of itself right there will give you so much more joy in your business, because, I've been there so many times where you want to help, because what happens is it's usually the people who are in the most dire straits. Now, this doesn't mean that I have plenty of places in my life where I give my time to people who can't afford us. That's my work, but I want to be the person to choose who gets that time, right? Doesn't mean we're not generous. It just means that we're really, I said it the other day to someone you select and choose who it is that you're going to give your gift to. So in our world, this idea of identifying a commitment score was game-changing for us. And more than anything, I think it gave me joy, because it made my team members able to serve us as a company better, because when they're on the call, it's not uncommon for us to be able to get enrollment rates up to 80% closing rate. That's 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, if we go through the process properly. Woohoo, can I get a Yahoo for that? So it really, so we obviously, like anything else, I am the guinea pig in our world. So we did this for quite some time in our own world and really perfected not just this whole assessment process, but then what do you do when you get to the conversation? So that last step number 3 is enroll. Our 5-step enrollment process was actually born out of my 20 years experience in the network marketing world. So prior to my move into the entrepreneurial space, that first business that we started with $5,000, it was a party plant company. And those 350 representatives were sales reps for our business. And what had happened, so I took that business and for 13 years was building a sales force. When we sold that company, I started then to work with other direct selling companies. So network marketing and direct selling companies would have me come in and train their sales force. And I was teaching enrollment, a value-based enrollment process, a 5-step process where I could take, one in particular, I remember Arbonne, the company Arbonne, they brought me in, they gave me 100 of their top leaders, And I gave them the same 5-step process that we teach now in enrollment. I gave the Arbonne distributors the same 5-step process, and they tracked 400% increase in enrollment in the following 3 months. Can you believe that? I mean, that's a huge shift. And here's how we made the shift. I talked earlier about our values, our value structure. What I saw in the network marketing world, and it applies over here in our world as well, what I saw in that world is that people had a felt sense that recruiting was out of alignment with their values. They loved the company, they loved the product, they wanted to help people, but they felt like it was, that whole idea of recruiting was out of alignment. And all we did in that process through these 5 steps is we helped them see that with these 5 steps, you have the opportunity to change a person's life whether they buy from you or not. That's all we did. Because there was we called it a values disconnect. That values disconnect was getting in the way of them showing up powerfully. All of a sudden when we show them, well, wait a minute. You can conduct a conversation, a 25-minute conversation, and change a life. Even if they buy, great. If they buy, wonderful. But if they don't buy, you've used those 25 to 30 minutes wisely. So this is the process that we use. I don't have a slide on it, but if you can imagine you going to a phone call with a potential client. So we call them strategy sessions, exploration sessions. Everybody has a different name for it. But all of a sudden, you get on that call and they have their results in front of them and you have your results in front of you, right? We offer a slide deck that actually walks you through this process. But if you can imagine, the first thing you do, you say, I'm looking at your assessment results, and hey, Karen, congratulations. I see you scored yourself at an 8. You look for, you look all over, where's the highest piece? You look for the highest score they gave themselves, and you celebrate. And you say, wow, that's exciting. Tell me why you scored yourself at a 10 on that. So what does that do? It automatically builds them up. And all of a sudden, when they come feeling a little broken and scared, oftentimes what that does is change the energy entirely. So really honoring that place, they're very strong because the evidence is right here, and then it's a simple transition. I don't know about you, but how many of you in that sales conversation talking about what's not working for people is sometimes uncomfortable? Can I see a show of hands, right? Now sometimes I talk about, I hate it because you put the knife in, and because people who are teaching sales are saying you gotta make them uncomfortable, you gotta talk about the pain and what's the gap and all of that stuff. Well, in my world, I'll let you go to your place of pain on your own, because filling out the assessment is kind of like that, right? In fact, you'll notice I'm going to give you a place to go take we have a Rock Your Biz quiz. You'll notice it. So much so that there's a video on the thank you page. And you'll see me say, hey, how'd you score? If you score yourself low in a couple areas, you're not alone. We have to take care of them emotionally. But then all of a sudden they come to the call and they get where they're off. They know what's not working. We don't have to stick the knife in and turn it. It's already there. So a recap of what happens in the enrollment process is that 5-step process. And if you can imagine also, see, the sections of the assessment mirror your process. It's so genius. Right? Do you get that? So let's say for those of you we just did a 5-step process with Jill Loveland out there. You now have a 5-step process to mirror your book, right? So imagine, Jill, so now you're going to have an assessment. They're going to see where they are in each of those areas. So when Jill's having that enrollment conversation, she's then explaining, well, so you scored yourself low over here. This is where we're going to take care of that over here in the program. Right? We're going to get all these pieces done over here. So you're able to build a bridge between what they need and what you offer in this really effortless way. Then what you get to do at the end of the conversation, so let's say Jill does a really good job, she's explaining where in her program that's taken care of, then you ask this question. I get goosebumps when I say this because it's so much fun to ask. So in my world, let's say I was having a conversation with you and I would say, so how would that feel? That if in 6 months from now, or 12 months, whatever the program is that we would be offering, how would it feel for you to be able to come back to this assessment and score yourself at an 8, 9, 10 in each of these areas? How do you think your relationship would be different? Or how do you think your business would be? And what you're doing with that is you're capturing their imagination of what's possible, which is what we have to do in order to sell to our client. They have to feel it's possible. Thank you. So the 5-step process enables you to do that. Celebrating where they're strong. I think there's so much in sales where we're so trying to put the spotlight on what's not working for people. This part of this humanizing the sales process is to give you a tool to be able to honor a person, and people don't need to feel broken to buy from us. Can I just say that again? Explore where they scored their self-love. So it's a real simple question. So that transition from celebrating the high, say, wow, okay, so I'm also looking at a couple other places I see, and what you typically do is take place at the top of the quiz. I see you scored yourself over a 2 and 3. Tell me about that. Why did you give yourself a score of a 2 or 3? That's how simple the conversation is, you guys. Respects them, fun for you, easy, and then this is where we build the bridge, is show where we can help. And then the last piece I think is really, really important. I don't know about you, but when I'm investing in someone, I want to know that they've got their stuff together, right? Can you imagine having a conversation with a person who's really basically extending themselves as a coach or a mentor in some way, to have this kind of clarity about how it is that they help you? It's sort of like a sigh of relief that they've got this nailed. They understand the process that they're going to take me through. And so building the confidence in you is one of the greatest things that this whole process does. So I'm really happy that we stumbled upon this, and obviously it was working for us. So it's like anything else. That's why we have 7 businesses. It was over dinner, and I was telling Mario how much our clients, we did it with some clients, and I kind of said, honey, I think we have another business here. And he was like, really? What is this? Our 7th. And he's a trooper. He's followed every dream that I put in front of him. And so we actually, we founded this as a company 3 years ago. And the company back then was branded under Value Quiz. I'm going to give you, I want to make sure I give this to you. So this is for you to experience my assessment. It's called the Rock Your Biz Quiz. I did 2 things, so some of you like the whole texting thing and some of you don't. So if you want to do the whole fun text thing, you can text Smart Biz Quiz to 44222. 44222. It's pretty cool. You get a little message from me. Hi, it's Jane. And then it'll give you the link to the Rock Your Biz Quiz. Should I give you? Okay. I'm so sorry. In our world, whenever people screw up on stage, we call them sexy. So right now I'm feeling really sexy because I did screw up something. This is not supposed to say Smart Biz Quiz. This is the URL for the company. But if you want to go directly to the quiz, write down Rock Your Biz Quiz. RockYourBizQuiz.com. And you'll see a video from me on the front, and then you'll see a video on the thank you page. Norma also has an assessment with us. I just saw your smiling face. Yeah, you were like one of our early adopters. Thank you, dear. So go to Rock Your Biz Quiz, you'll experience it. And just notice that the training, we give a template of how to do that training on the thank you page. And what you're really doing is you're walking them through so they can understand their assessment results and leading them into your next offer. So if you can imagine, so this is kind of a summary of what the assessment can do for you, right? So having an innovative lead magnet, right? Something groovy to always get those leads. Engaging an unresponsive list. This is one of my favorite things to do. We have an email that you can use to send out to your list to say, hey, you've been on my list for a while and I want to know who you are. Click here and take this assessment. Webinars, if you're holding webinars, our tests are showing a double show-up rate. We can double your show-up rate to your live webinars. And when more people come live, they're more likely to buy. So that's been fun. We put that assessment 24 hours before your webinar. It's crazy fun. And we give you a couple slides that you put in the beginning of your webinar to kind of tie that in. But now you've got people not just coming to your webinar. They come to the webinar and are really clear about what they're needing from you. Yeah. You have yours too. We got a couple of different people yet. And then knowing your audience before you take the stage. So for those of you who are new, I love it. Oftentimes what we'll do is we'll actually send out the assessment ahead of time. So when you take stage or when you hold your event, for those of you guys who are doing events, to have your event attendees take this, we do a whole back of the room package where we can teach your people who are doing your coaching, your one-on-one coaching at your live events. We teach them how to use the assessment. So before they get their appointment with someone on your team at your event, they take the assessment. The people have it on their iPad. I'm looking at you, Paul. There you go. It's pretty great. And we have people who were closing things before it was even offered on stage. And then I think for most of you, I really want to underscore that rocking the one-on-one enrollment conversation. That's the fastest path to cash, you guys. And it really, it's not that difficult when you have a tool, something like this. So these are all the wonderful things that an assessment does. We started building it for others. And we've got everything from brand newbies who don't have websites all the way up to people like Alex Mendozian who have like crazy complicated funnels. But It wasn't enough. So we were offering this, and the packages were between $2,000 and $3,000 for us to get a person's assessment up and running. Actually, Norma was there during that stage. I'm so sorry, but we're forever grateful to you. But so it was basically $2,000 to $3,000 to get you up and running, get you kind of in essence comfortable putting it out there and using it in your conversations. But like what was happening for me, okay, remember my mission is to transform the way thought leaders are really marketing and selling. I had another dinner conversation with my husband, because I realized that the model that we were offering wasn't going to be able to enable us to help a whole lot of people. So I went to him, remember it's a successful business, bringing lots of revenue in, and I said, honey, I think our business model's wrong. I think I want to make this available to everybody. And he's like, what do you mean? I'll never forget the conversation, but basically what I asked him is to go back and build the software up from ground one so that we could offer it to you guys for free. For 30 days. Yay! So this has been something, I know, yeah. So we're now in beta, so we've been in beta for about 6 to 7 months, having great success with it. The tool that we created is really pretty crazy. You can go in, we have most niches, we've still got to build out some of it, but what you do is the first step is you pick your niche. So if you're a relationship coach, you say relationship coach, and boom, it populates your assessment with your statements. I'm sorry, I know, all of these early adopters, I owe you dinner. Then the next thing, so basically based on your niche, and if we don't have your niche there, you have to tell us what the niche is, and we'll build out your assessment statements. Shh, enough from the peanut gallery. And then the next thing that you do after that, you say, how do you want to use it? And if you say, I want to use it in my coaching correspondence, you push a button, and it populates your thank you page and your autoresponder with text. Now, of course, you got to go in there, and you got to make it your own. You got to put your little vibe on it. If you're super conservative, it's got to have that. And if you're not, like Katrina, it would be like, hey, I'm so glad you took the assessment, right? I love you. So here's the thing. We're not launching this formally until September. So because you're part of Tanya's tribe, I told her I was doing this, we're going to bring you guys in as one of our beta groups, because we bring different groups in, and we give you lots of love. You will never get as much one-on-one from us as you will right now. So, yay! So we made it super easy, so it auto-populates the content. We have daily office hours. My team is rock star, and they're on a phone with you live and a screen share for an hour every day. We do weekly boot camps, so those are 2 hours. If you just want to get it done, you'll be on with one of our team. They're phenomenal. And then lots of put it to work tips, so like there's 12 things that you can do with it. Where do you place the little link, and how do you do all that? It's just fun just to get it out into the world. And then live trainings with me, because I love training on this because it's so much fun for me. So this is kind of what the general package is. And I kind of stole my own thunder, but would you like it? I was supposed to say, do you want it? Do you want it? And you're all supposed to go, yeah, you want it? And then, okay, how would you like it to be free? That's funny. This is the first time I've done this exact version. So that's what she has forms that she's filling out. So all you have to do is put your name and email address in there. We'll get you on the list. We'll get you the invitation so you can register for free for 30 days. And then after that, if you don't want to use it, then you just say, I don't want to use it, or we continue. But one really quickly thing is I want to say that the quiz in and of itself is perfect. I want everybody in here who has the desire to service clients and to have a business to be able to have that. But you'll see something else on there, and I'm calling it the Speaker Lead Gen and Conversion Kit. And this is where we're going to do a little bit of extra, because this basic package that we have for free is just one assessment, and you're going to need 2. You're going to need one for your business, and you're going to need one for every time you speak, even if it's on a virtual stage. So you're going to need 2 assessments, so we need to put you into the pro package. So even though your list says basic, if you go for the speaker kit, we'll actually put you into the pro, which is 5 assessments and all sorts of other bells and whistles. So here's what it is. So the pro package, if you want to go to the next one, I'll do it really quickly. So it's the 60-day subscription so that you have more than one assessment. I'm going to do the Speaking Gig Maximizer, which is how we get our event hosts to send it out in advance, How do you talk about it in your talk? How do you see the assessment in your talk, right? So you get people really excited to have that at the end. We're going to do a training. Well, you have 5 audios on how to do the enrollment conversation. For those of you who don't know how to do that, this is a really powerful. I walk you right through the 5 steps with the assessment. List engagement email campaign. So we give you the templates to re-engage your list. Personalized lucrative launch consultation. So we're going to put you on the team. Once you've got it built, you have the office hours to get it built, but once you have it built, I want you to have a one-on-one conversation with one of my team members, because they'll make sure that you're putting it in the right places and support you in getting it out there. And then lastly, I never offered this, but I'm so committed to you guys, and I love Tanya, is that I will actually personally look at all of your assessments. Yeah. I just want to make sure you got it right. And it's an important conversation, because when you have those statements right, it makes all the difference in the world for your enrollment conversations. So it's $1578 value. You see there on the list, we brought it down to $497. And just for today, this is my Ginsu knife part, we're going to go ahead and do it for $297. And if you want to do 2 payments. So this is if you want to go beyond the free. And it might be, I'm going to maybe a dozen people in the room here. You're already at that point where you really want to take it to the next level. So I'd be honored to be able to have you in this. So 2 payments of $167. And all of you are going to be invited to this. I talked to Tanya. So this is a special training. I'm going to do it for Patty's tribe and Tanya's tribe together. So on Friday the 7th at 12 noon, I'm going to do a really great training called Supercharge Your Sales. So, yay! Thank you so much. I hope that more than anything that you guys are inspired, that it's not just about the selling process. There's no reason for you to be resistant to it, because there is a way for you to create a really meaningful connection and find those ideal clients who are waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you.